Hello and welcome to Unapologetic. My name is Dawn. I'm a master metaphysician. I've been supporting women in business leadership and the deep work since 2012, and I'm so excited for today's webinar. This masterclass is on words of power, and I'm just going to make sure my screens all align so I can see you and you can see me and I can see my notes because I do have notes for today because it's so vast. I wanted to be sure that I touched on everything. And so, not only that, but I have historically been a very intuitive, very like go with the flow teacher. And it was only recently, if you're following my path, it's June 2025 at the time of this recording. If you're following my path, I am currently recognizing the deep integration that I have been through over the last 4 years of strategy and structure in that divine masculine vein. And I was someone who was so very resistant to it. And so I have a structure for this webinar and I have notes to make sure that we cover everything that I want to cover because I want you to walk away feeling powerful. I want you to walk away knowing where you're subverting your power in your language, knowing where you are unconsciously giving your power away or making yourself smaller in order to make people comfortable. And one thing I do want to tell you is like, a warning, I guess, enter at your own will, is that people get really, a woman in her power will always offend people running from theirs. Okay, that could be your mantra. All right. A woman in her power will always offend people running from theirs. And today, your language is one of the most powerful ways that you can start standing in your power. It's also how I teach oracles and alchemists, metaphysicians, any practice you're in, Reiki, whatever it is that you do, your great medicine for the world. I help women to see into themselves and into others through the language, not just like verbal, but the unspoken, as well as like the body. What is the body doing? And so today we're going to be reflecting your language back to you. But once you see this, you're going to be able to see it in all of your clients. You're also going to be able to see it in all of your uh, correspondences. So, like in your emails, you're going to be able to see it in people that you're interacting with in the world. You're going to be able to see it in your marketing, your messaging, especially your sales calls. This is so very important for sales. It's important for marketing as well because we are being authentic. Authenticity just means living under one's own authority. So it's a very authoritative stance. Society doesn't like that. We don't like a woman in her authority. I love a woman in her authority. Get it, girl. But it's really important for sales because in sales, sales conversations are all about boundaries and power dynamics. And that doesn't mean when I say power, I want you to know I'm not talking about the patriarchal power system that we've seen so far. Okay, we've been living under this rule for at least the last 10,000 years. Men in power looks like usurping the sovereignty of others. It looks like taking power from others. It looks like taking land, taking rights from other people. That's an overutilization of black magic, fear mongering, and an overutilization of faith magic or white magic in getting people to outsource their power to someone else. They need an external government. We need religions and mediums in order to interface with the divine. All of these things are ways that we have subverted our power. On the Crowns and Chaos podcast, I do an entire episode on endarkenment, and that is a really powerful lens through which to look at what I'm talking about here. And so I'm not talking about taking other people's power. I'm not talking about stealing power from others in order to boost your ego. When I talk about a woman in her power, I simply mean that she's in total control of herself. I simply mean that she is aware of her own energetic field. She has boundaries, standards, expectations. I can feel the reverberation through my heart as I'm saying this. She is wealthy in her intuitive gifts and her spiritual gifts. She is valued because she values herself. Okay, these are the aspects of power. She knows her genius, she knows what she's here to do in the world, she knows how to get paid for what she's doing in the world, and then she is on that healthy foundation moving into what is it that I desire. All right, so without further ado, we're going to hop in to Unapologetic, the Wise Woman's Lexicon of Power. And if you're not a woman and you're watching this, but you identify with a feminine spirit, welcome. I speak to women, but I also get a lot of beautiful men and non-binary people in my sphere who resonate with a feminine energy. And so welcome to you as well. All right. First and foremost, we are going to be talking about the hidden magic of your words. Now, I call this the living language. Your words are your wand, for lack of a better term. The Florence Scovel Shinn, if you've ever read the book Your Word is Your Wand, love that one. I'm going to take a darker route, as I always do, than she does, but your words are creating your world. Words create worlds. Okay, I have been working with the living language since 2012. I was awakened through sacred geometry and Thoth, the god Thoth, Hermes Trismegistos, the mercurial spirit. That collective consciousness came and delivered to me a vast amount of information that I did not understand yet. I didn't understand it yet. And after many years of working with it, it has slowly been integrated into my being. And when you're initiated through symbol, you have to work backwards to the exoteric. You have to say, how does this symbol translate into parable or into um, real world application? And that was the hardest part for me, but I'm fortunate that that's how it worked out for me because I started here and worked my way backwards through understanding. And so I've supported hundreds of women at this point in becoming better leaders, standing in their power, realizing their self-confidence, realizing what they're here to do in the world and how they can do it and get paid. And I'm so excited to be sharing that with you. You have to know, though, that your words are how you will create impact. And if you are not speaking authentically, as in under your own authority, the people who have signed sold contracts to work with you can't find you. So whenever your throat chakra is gunky, icky, sticky, not running optimally, your people are not going to be able to find you. Okay? Because they are here to resonate with your unapologetic speech. They're here to resonate with your voice in the world. A lot of my students, they'll say to me, I hear your voice in my head when I'm not with you. And that's because of my magnetic center. That's because I have created such a powerful core that it draws people to me. It repels those who are not for me, and it helps my students access my consciousness when I'm not in the room. And now you can do this with any person. You can tap into the field of any god, goddess, any deity, any demon, living or otherwise, and you can work with them and you can obtain more information from their energetic sphere once you have installed their software in your programming. Okay, and that's available to you too, to become the voice in someone's head. All right, the metaphysical foundation, words are spells, and the etymology of a word is so important. So people like to look at the definition, and I don't discourage that. I love a good definition, but the etymology to me is always a lot more enlightening, because when we look at where words came from, when we trace them back to their root, now we know what kind of tree we're dealing with, right? Excuse me, I've got to blow my nose here. Now we know what kind of tree we're dealing with. And because words are subconscious symbols that live in the brain and in the body, really, when we look at their etymology, it allows us to access more information. You're going to hear me use that word a lot, information, than just what's available in the surface level of that word. So etymology to me is like looking at the subconscious of the word. The word is like the conscious. We say love. I say love. When I say love, though, it evokes lots of different images in your mind than it evokes in mine. And much different words than it would evoke in somebody else's, right? And so that's the subconscious, which is 99% of who you are, that dark divine feminine. the subconscious of the word. And through the words, we can see it's a window to someone's soul. We can see someone's subconscious. And so when we get to the etymology of a word, we have a deeper understanding of it. And when we are paying attention to our own words, when we bring awareness to how we are utilizing words, then that awareness comes much more natural when we are listening to others. We can listen on a deep level, on a much more deep level. We can support on a much deeper level. Um, and we can connect with their essence in a much more profound way. It allows us to see past the ego, past the persona, and into the essence of a person. The very first thing that we're going to talk about are speech patterns that diminish. This is how you are draining your power or how you are offloading your power. A lot of people are uncomfortable holding power, and so they use their language to like push it away. Get it out of here. Get it out of here. Um, and the first section I have here is responsibility or healing deflectors. Now, I do want to make a little note here, a little caveat. This isn't, I'm not going to cover this in depth here. Okay, but if you want to work with me more on depth on this, then you're always free to book a call with me. Um, Hexes and curses, that's victim craft. Okay. If you were initiated through the craft, then at some point you have come across this story that you can be hexed and you can be cursed. And I will tell you that if you are convinced that you can usurp someone else's sovereignty by hexing them or cursing them, then you are also convinced that your sovereignty can be usurped, that you can be hexed, or that you can be cursed. Now, this is base level teachings where we work with duality, right and wrong. And everything I teach is going to be in this next vein where we work with the Trinity and we ascend to that neutral place. And so we can see that the pendulum is swinging, but we're no longer riding that bitch. All right. And so you have to understand that hexing and cursing works for you if you believe it works for you, and it works on you if you believe it works for you as well. Okay. I do not believe that I can be hexed or that I can be cursed because my energy field is my responsibility and I don't give that power to anyone else. It's allergy season, so you're going to see me blowing my nose a lot in this one. I know that's not the sexiest thing, but that's, it's the way. I live in the mountains, so 'tis the season. It's actually always allergy season here. The only time it's not allergy season is like the dead of winter. Cold and flu season. All right, so oh, did you hear my words just now? Look at the beliefs that I have about allergies and colds, right? See what I'm saying? When we believe we can be hexed or cursed, I'm like, nature, you can't be hexed or cursed. Nature gets me every time. Where are we playing the victim? And there's always new levels. I've been practicing this since 2012. And you just heard me do it. You just heard me say, like, it has power over me, right? I'm not convinced that Mother Nature does not have power over me. We just went through Hurricane Helene in September, October of 2024 here in my hometown. And nature doeth as nature willeth. All right. So the first one that I see people using is I don't know when you actually do know. And I see this in two ways. I see this one when you're forming an opinion and like you say something really powerful and you go, I don't know. People like to partner this one with, I don't know, that might be crazy, right? I don't know, is that crazy? Um, but I also see it when I'm doing the seven sacred seals work and I'm taking people back to their core trauma in each of the seven chakras. And they come to a place where, like, I don't remember my childhood. Or they'll say, like, I don't know. I can't see that. I can't see that far back. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Right. And I don't know is a protective mechanism. I don't know is what the conscious and subconscious mind utilize to one, offload your power, but two, in this way, in the healing capacity, when you have clients who say, I don't know, I can't remember, I don't remember my childhood, how's that story serving you? Right? The reason that the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree for 40 days was because he decided he was going to be more stubborn than this little piece right here that I'm giving you. This threshold between you and all your fucking healing or between your client and all their fucking healing. And it's this I don't know piece. I don't remember. I can't remember. Then you get stubborn. And my clients they get kind of frustrated because I'm like, "Yes, you can. Now I'm going to ask you again. right? And they, yeah, and that's that trigger, that's that shadow coming up. It's trying to protect the story that it's formed that it wants to keep. And if you've ever read the book Existential Kink, you understand that we have these stories that we think don't serve us, but that we actually secretly love. If you've never read that book, 10 out of 10, absolutely fucking recommend. It's one of the most transformational texts out there. I've read it multiple times in my healing journey, and every time it lands at a deeper level. Okay. So I don't know. You're undermining your own knowledge, or you're trying to protect a story that you subconsciously really want to keep, whether you think you want to or not. The other one is I don't remember. Childhood trauma work. That's the one that we just went through. The other one is I'm trying. Oh, I hate this one. I'm trying. Lord and Savior Yoda taught us, I do or I do not. There is no try. There is no try. And as a kid, I was always like, what the fuck does that mean? As an adult, as a metaphysician, now I understand people will use I'm trying as a protective mechanism. Because if you're trying, then you have your hat, then you have half an ass in the game. If you're trying, you're not doing. Okay? So I'm trying. That's the next one. We want to replace that with I will or I am. One that I don't know that I have in here that I want to put in here is the word should. Anytime you're using the word should, it's could with shame on it. So if you're saying they should do or I should do, that's should, that's could with shame on it. Okay. When we change the word should to could, it releases something in us that allows us to see a much clearer picture of what it is we want to bring to the world, what it is that we're doing, what it is that like we want, what it is that's holding us back, so on and so forth. This might be a stupid question. This might be crazy. This might be a stupid question. Call me crazy. These are all ways that we subvert the power statement that comes next. We have an incredible thought, we connect to source, we have something amazing that we want to see to our say to our clients, and then we go, this might be crazy. It's not crazy. That's a third eye chakra, crown chakra. I don't want to use the word block. I want to say there's that sticky feeling again. It's like gunk stuck in the river. You know what I mean? This might be a stupid question. I see this one a lot in like emails. I see this a lot when women are communicating with clients who they are potentially they don't know their industry very well. Listen, guys, it's okay to not know. It is very powerful. In fact, the only way you learn shit ever at all is to not know. If you know you're not learning, boom. If you know you're not learning, the seat of power is in knowing that you don't actually know anything. And we can see this like, you say, oh, science and fact and da 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 da. Da. Sure, but science today has discovered that much of what was considered pseudoscience 10 years ago is true. They've also disproven themselves. The purpose of science is evolution, it is to optimize itself to be a repeatable magic system that is tested and optimized. That's from Harvard, by the way. I took an Oracle class from Harvard that was absolutely awful, if I'm being really, it was so boring. It wasn't awful. I guess they gave you the good information. It was so boring, though, like 0 out of 10. But Harvard, one of their biggest things was that, like, my biggest takeaways was that the craft, magic, stops and science begins once a thing is being optimized, period. Period. Like if you are performing a certain type of magic and it's tried and tested and it works, and then you're like, oh, but it could work better, then it becomes science. That's a silly line in the sand, if you ask me. As a metaphysician, I can tell you that I'm optimizing my practices, my understanding all the time. So we want to be in a position of not knowing. That doesn't make us less powerful. And instead of saying this might be a stupid question or this might be crazy or forgive my ignorance, you could just say, I don't have a full understanding of this, or I don't have an adept understanding of this. How can I best support you, or insert whatever your next question will be? How, please help me understand, right? I also like understand better than understand, and you'll hear me using it all the time. It's become natural in my language. Understand is when I stand with something. It's in me. It's landed. is how I like to say that. Okay. Understand means I stand under something. And there are very few things in this world in magic systems that you want to stand under, because anytime you're standing under something, you are standing under its laws, you are standing under its systems and structures. When you understand it, then you can act out the will of that universal force, whatever it is. If you understand Mars, you can act out the will of the god of war. When you understand Venus, you can act out the god of love. When you understand Venus, then all of its laws rule you. This is very, I want to be very clear here. We have to be mindful of lunar worship. That's actually a totally different, I should do a whole thing on that. But like the moon has more laws than the planet Earth does. So I think it's like Earth has 48, the moon has like 96. And so when we worship the moon as an understanding, then we are actually operating under all the laws of the mineral rung in I'm sorry, in Manly P. Hall's work. Um, Instead of the animal, the plant, or the human consciousness, where we are operating under mineral consciousness at that point. And like nothing is more immobile in this world than a rock. You know what I mean? And so instead we want to understand the moon, because when we understand the moon, we have access to all of its laws and we can utilize them. We are not under them. We are being them. We get access to all of its power. That's what I'm trying to say. We also get stuck in apology loops. Compulsive sorry for things that don't require an apology. I catch myself doing this in the grocery store. I live in the South and I'm like literally existing in the grocery store and I need to grab something and somebody's standing kind of close and I'm like, oh, excuse me, sorry. What am I sorry for? Like, I need ketchup. What am I sorry for? You see this all the time on like airplanes, airports, grocery stores, just in day-to-day life, and people who are really thick and heavy with this will be apologizing like in their relationships, like people who are very close to them, they'll be constantly like, oh, I'm sorry. We also see this though in email. There's nothing more unsexy to me than getting an email that says, sorry for the inconvenience, or sorry to bother you, right? You're inferring that your presence is a bother to people before you ever make a request, before you ever like make a statement, make a pitch. You're already like subverting power, like you're coming in small. And there's just, if it's a sales conversation, especially, like that's just not sexy. Okay. I encourage you to be apologetic when it's really required. Like when you fucked up and you learned something from it, then you can be like, hey, I apologize. I also don't like the word sorry. I prefer the word apologize. Sorry to bother you for the inconvenience before asking for something you deserve or something that you want. Sorry for the delayed response when it wasn't actually delayed, right? Like in this world we consider anything longer than 10 minutes a delayed response, and that's just not the truth of it. That's just not, you don't have to answer emails immediately as soon as they come in. You don't have to be on your phone 24/7 answering text messages. And so you can just respond powerfully and not acknowledge that it was a delay. Now, if you're waiting like 6 months, okay, then I apologize. It's taken me so long to get back to you. But even then, I would say something more like, thank you for your patience, you know? And if you're waiting 6 months to respond to something, then you actually have a aversion problem. You don't, I mean, it's a language problem, but it's an aversion. You're avoiding something. I apologize in advance. Oh, that went down wrong. Preemptive diminishment is what that is. We talked about that. The next one is minimizers and shrinkers. Just, just, just following up on my last message. Just wanted to see if you read my last message. Just like, ugh. That one's even hard to understand. That one's a vibe. That one's a vibe. I recommend when you're following up in sales conversations and you're following up text message, email, however it is that you follow up with your students, with your clients, that you just say like bumping this up to the top of your message instead of just checking in. So instead it would look more like, hey, Sarah, checking in on our last email. Haven't heard back from you. Is this still something that you're interested in? Right? Kind of. sort of. Um, this is kind of like when we did, and sometimes this is relevant. Like sometimes you're going to be saying kind of because it was kind of like this. But sometimes you're going to be saying kind of in a way to like not own the thought, not own the opinion, not take responsibility for what it is that you're saying. Sort of is the same way. A little bit, a bit, a little bit. I'm a little bit concerned about, if you're concerned, just be concerned. Okay. We don't have to make it a little bit. Oh, this old thing? It was $6. This is my favorite, compliment deflectors. And this is still something that I'm in active practice of. I wear these incredible shawls and they're my fucking favorite because I just want to look like an oracle everywhere I go. Okay. I want people to be like, that lady obviously reads tarot from the ethers, right? Like she knows something extraterrestrial that we don't know. That's my whole vibe. That's what I love. And people will be like, "Oh, I love that. It's so beautiful." I'll be like, "Oh, I got it from Amazon." Oh, I found it at the thrift store. It was only $6, right? Instead of just saying thank you or me too. That one's even more powerful. Me too. My daughter taught me this one when she was little. I hadn't yet taught her to say thank you when she received a compliment. And so when little old ladies in the grocery store, she's a magnet for little old ladies in the grocery store, they would say, "Oh, you're so beautiful." And she would say, "I think so too." Or she would say, "Yeah, I am." It's giving Barbie movie. If you haven't seen Barbie movie, 10 out of 10 recommend. And this is that. This is that. Instead of oh, this old thing, like deflecting the compliment, stand in it. First start with thank you. And then as you get more bold and brazen, we can move into like my 3-year-old. She's 6 now, but when she was really little, we can move into that energy of like, yeah, I love it too, you know. All right. Honestly, this is another one. Honestly, and I do this one. I'm guilty of honestly. And sometimes when we're using honestly, you want to be, this one's dual nature, okay? Because sometimes people say honestly right before they're going to be very vulnerable. But sometimes people say honestly right before they're going to say something very dishonest. The subconscious is strange that way. It's Wonderland. So a lot of things are twisted. I like to say that it's backwards, upside down, and inside out is how the subconscious runs in comparison to our overworld, the world that we walk with the conscious mind each day. Does that make sense? This one's another one that I oftentimes find myself using. I'll say something super mystical and amazing. There's this tarot reader that I love on TikTok. And every time she says something incredible that absolutely aligns with me and with 100,000 other people who have liked this video, she'll say, I don't know, does that make sense? Like, of course it makes sense. We are all with you, sister. Like, of course it makes sense. And be mindful that you can reflect these things back to your loved ones, to your friends, to your students for to help them bolster power. Okay. When I teach the living language, and this is just like one piece of it, because this is just one piece of it. When I teach the living language, it is the most transformational system I can teach a student, and then they see it everywhere. So not only are they standing in their power, they're helping others stand in their power. And if you know me, you know that I believe that women in power is how we will heal the world. Okay, so take these, steal everything from a good teacher, take them out into the world, help your students to achieve the same things. Does that make sense? Yes, it did make sense. Why did you ask me that? Okay. The other thing is that whenever you reflect these things back to people, they get a little like, if they're not ready for the teaching, they're going to be like really triggered by it. But even then, when you trigger someone, you're doing them a service. Please hear me out. In all my years of practicing shadow alchemy, triggering people is the fastest way to help them awaken to new levels of themselves and new levels of power. Triggering people is one of the most powerful. I'm not saying you should just go out here fucking bows, throwing bows, trying to hurt people. But I am saying my mentor shows up eating a pepperoni stick, a cheese stick wrapped in pepperoni, just because she overcame orthorexia. As a fellow orthorexic, I used to be an orthorexic. It like that would have triggered the shit out of me because as a spiritual teacher, we're supposed to be vegan. At the time, I was tanking my fucking hormones and only eating grapes because I'm a type O something blood and I have to have red meat. And I didn't know that about myself. So I'm over here trying to be all love and light, only wearing white, never eating meat. And I really needed to be triggered by somebody who was incredibly adept with pepperoni in their hand. You see what I'm saying? Triggering people is oftentimes the highest service, but you don't want to go out and just be like a menace for no reason. I guess that depends on your human design. I'm a projector, and so my path is to wait for the invitation. So if I'm just out here like pissing people off for no reason, yeah, I have the Empress, the Empress inverted and the Tower coming out right now, pissing people off for no reason. That's not, it takes me out of my power. It creates bitterness. And so my job is to be me and let that trigger people. And when they bring it to my attention, then we can have a conversation about it. But for you, your ability to trigger people might be a little more direct. Yeah, very Tower, very Tower. Okay. A trigger creates a tower moment. That's why I'm saying that, because a trigger in somebody creates a tower moment because it erodes what they think is normal. I watched this beautiful thing from a Loke earlier, and they are a trans, like, God, poet, artist, speaker. They do so many beautiful things, comedy. And they were talking about how they used to be really hateful and upset with people who were transphobic until they understood that simply existing as trans contradicts how the world sees gender norms. And so it's not that they're transphobe, well, they are transphobic, but that's not rooted purely in hatred of another. It's rooted in hatred of the self, because if gender norms aren't real, I have to admit that I was wrong, that I've invested a lot of money, that I've created a persona that potentially is false, is completely wrong. And that's a tower moment. The existence, seeing the existence of something or someone that is in direct contradiction to how you think the world should be is your medicine. And so, as teachers, you can drink that shit up, but recognize that for your students, it might come off as a little bit like sandpaper on the skin at first. And then, if they are, if their sole contract is to learn from you, they will return and be like, hey, that really pissed me off. And I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful for that. Thank you for helping me see clearly. Another one is, I don't know. Is that crazy? We've already talked about that one. Is that crazy? Permission seekers. Is it okay if ba da 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 da, right? When you don't need permission, I see wives do this a lot with their husbands. Women set the tone in the home. We hold the dominant position, and we have given that over to men, and men actually don't like that. That's why they underperform when given leadership positions. Unless it's to dominate other men, and then they tend to do really well. Um, but when they're put into a place of leadership, we'll say, like, is it okay if, when really she knew what she was going to make for dinner anyway, when really she knew what the kids needed anyway, when really she had already decided which incense to light that day. And then what we see is an erosion between the masculine and feminine there, because oftentimes the woman will say, which shirt do you like better? And it's like a pink one and a purple one, and he'll say the purple one, but she likes the pink ones better. So like, I don't, she only wanted his confirmation of pink. When he chose purple, she wore pink anyway. And he starts to question, this happened with my own lover, he starts to question, like, does she even value, like, why does she ask for my opinion if she's just going to do the opposite of what I said? And the medicine there is to stop asking for his opinion when you already know. And the same thing goes with sales conversations, marketing conversations. Is it okay if, or if you're pitching to a client, to a corporate client, whatever it is it okay if you have permission and it's well within your right, if you are leading up or leading down and you know that this is the best move, then you stand in that authority. They can contradict it if they want, but we're not going to ask them. My daughter, she's really good about this one. I'll ask her a question that I had already decided, like if we're leaving an event, and I'll say, hey, we're going to leave soon. Is that okay? It actually doesn't matter if it's okay because we're leaving soon. I've already made that decision. And so she'll say no just to test me, just because she knows. And so she has helped me bring supreme awareness to where I'm asking for permission or trying to soften a blow to avoid, and we're going to talk about that later, to avoid a tantrum, when really this was the rule anyway. This was already my plan. And so instead I have to be very mindful about when it is okay for her to say no, I don't want to do that, and like, all right, cool, then we won't. And when I am actually just laying down a law, when I'm saying this is how we're going to do it. Would it be all right if I ba-da-da. That's the same thing when you have the right to ask directly for what you want, or you have the right to do what it is that you want. Another one is I was wondering if, instead of making a direct request. So instead of saying I was wondering if you were still interested in this program, you can just say, again, how I gave it to you earlier, bumping this message. This was something you said you were interested in, and now I'm reaching out to see if we're still in alignment. When can I expect to support you, or however that conversation goes for you? Do you mind if that's the same thing? When you have equal standing with someone and you ask them, like, do you mind if I da 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 da, when you didn't have to? Sometimes these are gonna, this is nuance, nuance in all things. Shadow, all things in shadow are light. There are gonna be times where you are being considerate of someone else's space, their energy, their desires, and then it's okay to say, like, how do you feel if we do this, right? But just like the example with my daughter, if I've already decided that we're leaving at 5, I don't need to ask you if that's okay with you. I don't need to say, do you mind if we leave at 5? I've already made the decision. It's well within my right to make that decision. If you have time, that's another one that just diminishes the importance of your request. So hey, if you have some time today, if you're in a leadership position and you're like delegating to one of your VAs, or you're delegating to a team member, if you have time, da da da, if you have time today, could you take care of da da da, when really you need it on your desk by the end of the day tomorrow. And at that point, we set a very clear expectation. Hey, fam, I need this on my desk by the end of the day tomorrow. Now, as leaders, it's important that we recognize, like, is it within their scope? And is it within their, like, if they're on vacation, now you're an asshole. Okay. So, like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying just go out there and be the boss. I'm a leader at heart. There will likely be a lot more lessons dropping on leadership. And so we'll hear more about this in the Conscious Leaderships series that I will begin dripping very soon. But for now, just know that, like, if you're giving a directive and it's within their scope and it's within expectation, then setting a deadline is pivotal. It's a form of respect. It's a form of black magic. It's how we set boundaries and establish standards and expectations. And we don't have to soften that blow. People respect people who respect them, and people respect people who respect themselves. And so, as long as we have self respect and self authority, we don't need to diminish the importance of our requests when we make them. Okay, moving on to possibility underminers. I'm going to take this up slower since last time I choking on black cherry, sparkling water. Possibility underminers. If versus when in marketing, if you decide to work with me versus when we work together, this is pivotal in sales conversations, like follow-up conversations, but also in your marketing texts. And I'll probably do a whole thing on marketing, but when you are marketing to someone, you get really clear on your ideal client, and you get really clear on what their problem is, and then you get really clear on what the solution is, and you get really clear on why you are the best fit for their solution, for their problem, for who they are. Okay, if you have those four things in your marketing, then when you write a post, when you make a TikTok, when you send out an email, you're not saying, if you're someone who wants to hit 50K this month, you're saying, when you hit 50K with when you hit 50K this month from working with me, or when we get you to 50K this month, you're going to feel free. You're going to feel whatever it is, right? That's like off the top of my head, but whatever it is, if you're saying, if you're someone who's burnt out, instead of saying you're burnt out, then you're leaving it open for them to be like, do I feel that way? When instead, when you say you're burnt out and you're ready to make 50K a month, but you don't have any more to give, you need strategy and structure. Sparkly water. Damn, next time I record one of these, I'll have to do without the sparkly waters. All the burping for confirmation. I heard a spiritual mentor say that one time, and it was the cutest thing. When you do this, you're polarizing your audience. The people who are not burnt out and ready to make 50K, and they haven't been utilizing strategy and structure, are just going to tune you out. And you wanted them to tune you out anyway, because your solution of strategy and structure isn't going to help them, right? When you say if you're da da da, it leaves like this weird possibility. It like puts everybody in this liminal space of like, is this for me? Is it not? Versus when the client who is burnt out and wants to hit 50K, but has exhausted all of their resources by not honoring their divine masculine, they're going to be like, oh shit, that's me. She's talking to my soul. She sees me. She gets me. So replace if in your marketing and messaging with when, and you'll see a massive uptick in sales just by that, just by doing that. Hopefully, what? Hopefully, we can make this happen. Hopefully, you see the value in my messaging. Hopefully, no. My messaging is valuable. When you're ready to work with me, let's get this on the calendar. Okay. I'll try instead of I will. We've already talked about this one, but this is another possibility underminer because when we say I will try to do something, we are not committing. That's what try does. I don't know if I said that earlier, but try gives us an out because we'll probably fail. Try means we're not actively doing it. We're just we're like pontificating. We're still stuck mentally masturbating in the third eye chakra. We're not actually like rubber meets the road, taking action on it, failing actively so that we can get back up and learn something new. I try as a protective mechanism because it allows you an out, essentially. I tried. It's a victim, that's victim craft. I tried. I should be able to instead of I will. And this one actually, when people say I should be able to, da 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 da, again, should is could with shame on it. They probably don't want to. If you're saying this in your language, I should be able to insert thing here, mow the lawn this afternoon. If you don't want to say no right now and say, I will do it tomorrow, and then make that commitment. And because we are building integrity, wholeness, because we are stabilizing a structure, we are doing what we said we will do. And so don't commit to shit that you don't have an intention of following through with. Period. I should be able to, again, is just like I'll try. It gives us an out. And it allows us to just avoid saying no. That just tells me you have poor boundaries, right? With any luck, get the fuck out of here. You're playing in the you're putting all of your cards in the hands of chance. No, no. With any luck, no. You do or do not, right? That's what I should have named this masterclass. Do or do not. Lord and Savior Yoda. Filling the silence out of clear discomfort. I'm a talker. I love to talk. And for many years now, I've been practicing deep listening through the living language so that I can extract the gold that my clients have. And sometimes the most gold comes from me shutting the fuck up, me letting them sit in the uncomfortable silence that we just created. Because that discomfort, again, it's that triggered tower moment where they are going to have more clarity than ever before because shit in their brain is falling apart. In sales conversations, you want your sales, if you do them live, if you take sales calls, even an email, you want your client to be saying more than you're saying. Okay, so the closer we get to truth, the less words we have to use. The more powerful, the more we believe in our services, the less words we have to use to convey that value. Because as we ascend from the exoteric to the mesoteric to the esoteric, we go from all the fucking words, black and white, blah, 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 story, all the things to like parable archetypes, all the way up to symbols. And at the symbol level, there are no words. I'm not there yet. Obviously, this masterclass is on words. Okay. So, like, and there are actually no living teachers that I know of today that are in the esoteric. Um, Not that they would be making themselves known because there would probably be no words. They would be living symbols at that point. This is where you get symbols like the Star of David, Merkaba, the Flower of Life, Metatron's Cube, um, Yin and Yang, so on and so forth. Okay. Those symbols embody things that are much more vast than what words can convey. So when you're filling the silence out of clear discomfort, it just says that you are not comfortable holding power. Power is in silence. Power is in that quiet space. Power can be in how you're saying something, but power is equally in knowing when to shut the fuck up, knowing when to let the uncomfortable space exist, providing excessive backstory before making a request. This is like over explaining. In your emails, I see this a lot with clients who feel like they have to justify their prices and they give them like boom, 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 boom. Here's like line items, like bullet points. Here's what everything that's included to like demonstrate their value. And what they don't realize is just by using so many words, they're actually understating their value quite a bit. Justifying decisions that need no justification. You can just say no. In client relations, you can say that's outside of my scope. That is not in alignment with my contract. This is not how I do things. You don't have to say, because this one time in high school, I was burned by this girl named Susie who took advantage of my boundaries and now I no longer have the. They don't need all of that. You standing in your power is enough to activate them if they are the student for you, or if you have keys for them, or if they respect you. After offering multiple reasons why you're doing a thing when just one would suffice, if at all. So you don't have to explain yourself. When you're doing healing work with like parents, friends, deconstructing religion, whatever it is, and you are justifying, you're like constantly giving explanation and reason, you are not confident. Okay, when I see somebody who feels like they have to justify to me, it tells me that they're not confident in what it is that they offer. They're not confident in their statement because you can really just block a motherfucker. You can really just say, no, ma'am. You can really just say, not in my house. That's available to you. Preemptively addressing objections that haven't been raised. This happens when you're triggered. When somebody says, "Hey, I don't see the value of this," or "Hey, I don't think this is worth $597." And you're like, you take that so personal that then you're like also object like, well, it's going to help you like not take as much time and it's going to help you do this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing and this thing. And like those things weren't the objectives. I mean, the objections, the objection was price. And when the objection is price, it's always a value issue. This is in the Pillar of the Prostitute if you take my Shadow Alchemy course. And when we're in the pillar of value, it's never I can't afford something. It's I don't see the value in this. And so when you are also in your prostitute and someone says, $597 for a single session, I can't afford that. And you say, I'm just going to leave the tower up. And you say, well, here's all the reasons why it's amazing and how it'll help you. You're missing the opportunity to actually overcome the objection that's in front of you, which is that they don't see the value in your product. Now, that could either be that your messaging is ass, your marketing wasn't clear, or that they are not the student for you. If they're not willing to afford it and you haven't evoked, your magnetic center didn't call them in a way where they're like, I'll pay anything, teach me the way, then there's nothing you're going to be able to say that's going to change their mind on that. And also with like healing journeys with parents, siblings, grandparents, whatever it is, if they're committed to misunderstanding you, then there's no reason to address objections or address issues that just aren't. It's not in your power. It's just a waste of your energy. And they can see that. A lot of times it's wraith energy, right? They're like, let me eat it. Let me eat it. Explaining your thought process in exhaustive detail. I do this. I do this. I see the world in so many different facets and symbols and sigils and all the things that I'm all the time like, and it feels so good because the women that I support are generally stuck in this third eye chakra. We have been in the desert of the mind for eons. And so we love our mental masturbation. We love to just like here's all it's weaver magic, right? Here's all the connections that you can make to this one thing instead of being very precise and potent in what it is that you're here to say. Adding unnecessary context to simple statements. The false belief that more words create more understanding. Oftentimes, more words create more confusion in your marketing, your messaging, your sales, and in your dissemination of wisdom. And I'm still working on that one, just so we know, like, I love to talk. And so, like, there's part of me that's resistant to becoming that, like, one word guru because, like, I love to just voice my opinions, you know what I mean? Or voice what I've learned or voice my deconstruction. That's the one that I really love. I love to talk about the deconstruction, both for myself and for my clients. And so that's so yummy to me that, like, over explanation or using more words than necessary is still part of my blueprint. I'm actively working on that one alongside you, sister. How over explanation stems from the illusion that we can manage others' responses. This one is huge. This is a manipulation tactic. When you are trying to make yourself smaller because you're afraid of how people will act, you don't think that they can hold you in your bigness. And I actually think I'm skipping ahead here. I think that's the next section, but I'm going to do it here anyway. You don't think people can hold you in your bigness, which is a usurping of their sovereignty. It's an undermining on their part. And what's available to you is for you to allow them to respond however the fuck they're going to respond. You can't manage that anyway. You can't manage how people see you. You can't manage the perception management, like PR work is very powerful, but you have to know where that line stops. You have to know where like 50% of your audience, if you're doing it right, is going to fucking hate you. And you cannot, nor do you want to change that. Okay. And so when we're trying to manage other people's feelings, we are making ourselves smaller because we're walking on eggshells everywhere we go. But you put the eggshells there, bro. Like you don't even know that the eggshells are really there. You're just anticipating them. So you're like walking around like trying to be tiny in yourself. Don't get me started on how like tiny women is a patriarchal construct to keep women submissive and to like signal that like she's easily dominated. That's why men who are very patriarchal don't like a big woman because she's too much for them to handle. Like energetically, for real, for real. It's giving Willendorf. I said what I said. Okay. Examples of over explanation. I'm emailing to ask if we could reschedule our call because my dog is sick and I need to take him to the vet. Plus, I have another appointment that's running late and I didn't sleep well last night, so I'm not at my best. And I want to give you my full attention when we speak. Versus, I need to reschedule our call to Thursday. Does 2 p.m. work for you? How does that feel different? You see how those two things feel different? People love a fucking dom. People love someone in their power. It's very attractive, especially if their blueprint is to hold more power. They can't get enough of it. That's going to be too abrupt. It's going to piss people off who are not here to hold power or people who have not come to terms with the fact that they're here to hold power. And again, trigger them bitches. Trigger them bitches. That work is yours, not mine. It doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm increasing my rate starting next month because the cost of living has gone up significantly, and I've invested in several new certifications to enhance my offerings. Plus, my calendar is getting super full, and I've been told by several colleagues that I'm undercharging for my expertise. Versus, my rate will increase to X dollars effective June 1st. People might, and this is where like you are, let me get back up here, preemptively addressing objections that haven't been raised. Right? Like you're trying to explain why you're raising your prices and nobody asked you why. And if they do want to know why, they will literally be like, "Hey, why?" And then you can tell them, and I wouldn't even go into all this. Like if somebody came to me and they were like, "Hey, why are you raising your rates?" I would say because my value increases all the time. Does yours? People love that, a good reflection. Okay, quick exercise for this portion. Pause the video because I'm going to just keep like trucking, but pause the video and do this exercise. Listen to me. Do the exercises. When you work with me and I have exercises for you, do them. The only person that you're gypping by not doing what I ask of you, by not answering questions when I ask them, by not participating in the exercises, by not completing the journal prompts is you. The only person you're gypping is you. Your results are a gift of your efforts. You are going to get out of anything what you put in. I don't ask you to reflect because it's a nice to have. I ask you to reflect because I've been working in the subconscious since 2012 and I know the very best ways to ninja style get in there. Okay. Quick exercise. Identify which categories of patterns you use most frequently. Now, by the time you guys are watching this, you'll have all of these listed out in the document section. Take a minute, check those out, pause this video, and ask yourself which categories of these patterns do you use most frequently? I don't need you to change them. I don't need you to explain why. Just right now, we are in the awareness phase of alchemy. That's all we're doing. If we move too quickly from awareness to changing to like repatterning, then we skip all the juicy, yummy bits about forgiveness and about clarity and all those things. So instead, just bring awareness. Okay. The energetic impact. Language affects your energetic field. The heart chakra, we know it can be measured like 6 feet outside of the body, sometimes bigger if you're depressed, sometimes smaller. Our language affects our energetic field. Anybody who's ever practiced Kundalini knows that you can buff your aura, you can embody the golden self. And when you embody the golden self, your aura is huge. People in the grocery store look at you like they know you, right? Like they're like, who's that? Like they look like that. Oh, like, And when your language is small, it decreases the potency of your magnetic center and your people can't find you. The connection between speech patterns and communicated and practiced, and self-worth. As your speech patterns, as you start to deconstruct this, you bring awareness to it and you start to deconstruct where you are playing small in your language, you will see a massive upgrade in your self-worth, in your self-respect, and how you move in the world because you start the language is a result of something. How, if you're saying sorry to everything, if you're saying I don't know after every powerful thing you say, that's a symptom. The cause is somewhere in here, but we can use the symptom to get to the root, to find out where it is that we're playing small, where it is that we're subverting our power. How clients, customers, relationships subconsciously perceive softened language, they don't know it because unless they've taken this class, right? Unless they've taken this class, then they do know it. They see it and they're like, oh, you're subverting your power here. But if they don't know, on a subconscious level, it's a vibe. They can feel it, that it's like very squishy. They also, manipulators love this because if they can feel that you're somebody who's easily like twisted and triggered and manipulated, then they will do that. They will take advantage of that. People who benefit from you not having boundaries are going to take advantage of you not having any boundaries. They're also going to be pissed off when you start setting boundaries. That's how you know you're doing the Lord's work. Um, the illusion of emotional management, you can't control how others respond. You need to just let that go. Don't even let that be a part of your language system. You can't control how they're going to respond. And you're being manipulative, but not in a good way. So manipulation is magic. Manipulation just means to change the shape of something. Okay. When you are being manipulative in order to like mitigate risk in the conversation, like, oh, please don't be mad at me. Are you okay? Is that mad? Are you mad at me? Are you mad at me? I used to ask my husband that incessantly. Are you okay? Are you upset with me? He's like, I'm getting upset because you keep fucking asking me if I'm upset, right? When you do that, it's like they're like, it's frustrating for them. They feel misunderstood. It's frustrating for them because you're trying to manage something out of fear and not from a place of leadership, from a place of sovereignty. The dark feminine perspective is that directness as magnetism and responding and respecting other people's sovereignty is the fastest way to grow your magnetic center. When you are direct in what you want, in how you want it, in your leadership, in your values, in your boundaries, in your standards, in your expectations, and da 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 da, you become magnetic to your ideal client because you're being the version of them they want to be. They see themselves in you and they are ready to assume that role in their own lives. When you respect other people's sovereignty, if they don't have sovereignty, it's going to piss them off. We love that. It's a good tower moment. I'm going to keep throwing it up. Good tower moment because we want as many people as possible to grow sovereignty because when people are sovereign, they stop externalizing government and they stop externalizing religious experience and they bring it back home. And then we have whole people. We have people who are integritists moving in the world. All right, this is the final section, and what I'm going to ask you to do, this is a practice. So I'm going to ask you to do a an audit, okay, over the next few days. You can even pause this if you want and like go pull up your emails, social media posts, whatever it is. If you podcast or you do sales calls where you have recordings of yourself speaking, listen to yourself. So, what I want you to do is I want you to review your emails and your text messages or your social media posts for power draining patterns that we've said above, or for undermining languages, undermining language patterns, okay? As we've already talked about. Listen to recordings of yourself speaking, sales calls, social media posts, podcasts, YouTube videos, however it is that you disseminate your information, listen to yourself in your recordings. All this does is, again, it helps you bolster that awareness so that you can start to alchemize it once you have supreme awareness. And when we're in the awareness phase, I want you to know like nothing's wrong with you. Okay? Well, I'm going to get to that. Let me finish here. Have a trusted friend. If you have a friend who is adept and isn't judgy, that's a big one. Because if you have haters as friends, they're going to be like trying to kick you down. So like I don't recommend don't recommend those. But if you have a trusted friend or a mentor that you trust, have them help you identify when you diminish yourself, when you deflect a compliment, when you subvert your language, when you question yourself, when really you need to be standing on business, 10 toes down. Measure your explanation to response issue ratio. So count if you're sending an email, count how many sentences of explanation you have versus the actual request that you're making. And there's no perfect ratio, but when you do it, your brain is going to be like, wow, 5 sentences to explain 1 sentence of request. That seems excessive. Let me clean that up. And some sovereign speech transformations that we can go through. Actually, I'll drop these in the resource section of this lesson so that you have them. But they're things like I don't know versus I'm considering several perspectives, or not saying I don't know at all if you do in fact know. Sorry for the delay becomes thank you for your patience, so on and so forth. I'll let you guys look through these. Feel free to drop comments and ask questions in the like learning portion of this, and I'll reflect back to you, or I'm happy to provide guidance. You can also always book a call with me if you want a deep reflection, a fast mirror to where you are doing this. All I do, I get on these calls and I listen, baby. And listen, you've never been listened to. Like, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to listen to your whole body and how it speaks to me. I'm going to listen to the range and tones of your voice. I'm going to look at your body language. I'm of course going to be reflecting back to you your very own words. And people are always shocked when I reflect back to them their verbiage and they're like, I had no idea that I was saying those things about myself. Releasing the need to manage others' emotions. We've already talked about this, but you need to, this is a practice in sovereignty magic. And again, this is the other side of the coin of victim magic, victim craft. You can learn more about that in my Shadow Alchemy series, the pillar of um, um, vision and the pillar of action. Those two are going to be relevant here. Allowing other people to be sovereign, let them have their own responses. You are not responsible for how others are able to respond. Let them do that. Recognize that emotional management is a form of victim control. It's a bully tactic. You can't manage another person's emotions. You don't have to be a dick. That's not what I'm saying. But when you're being truthful and authentic, it is not up to you to manage how other people receive that. Direct communication honors other people's intelligence. They can handle you, or they can't, and you'll learn something. And they'll learn something. Potentially that just you guys aren't a good fit. Techniques for sitting with discomfort of not explaining. So, guys, this just looks like when you're in that space of silence that we were talking about earlier and you're holding silence powerfully. I want you to be taking deep breaths, be intentionally still. You can even like bring your awareness like to the buzzing in your hands, like bring your awareness to your navel center. Dropping out of the mind and into the body is how we can move from anxiety to presence to stillness. And so when there is an opportunity for silence, focus on your breathing. Relax your jaws, relax your hands, relax your shoulders, and let the silence exist powerfully. They say that silence is the language of God. How beautiful is that? I don't know who they is. Differentiating between necessary context and over explanation. This is just going to take practice. I've already given you some tools to do that, but it is important that you start really looking at like where am I giving necessary context and where am I subverting my power by over explaining my position. Hold the highest version of people. Assume that they can handle you. Assume that they are sovereign. Assume that they are the highest, most enlightened version of themselves. And even when they show you otherwise, this is the way of Christ. I highly recommend the book, The Way of Mastery. It's one of the most beat up books that I have. You guys can't really see here, but like it is bookmarked and highlighted the shit out of. Um, the way of mastery, you're going to hold the highest image of people, of your students, of interactions, of your parents, of your friends and family. And even when they show you otherwise, you continue. And what this is your essence speaking directly to their essence. And people feel that in a way that one persona talking to another persona just doesn't get the job done. Doesn't get the job done. Okay, and the four things I want you to remember, this is actually my Shadow Alchemy series repurposed for this particular masterclass. The first thing is awareness. I did this here and I'm aware of it. Continue to audit your speech and your written word. Repetition of this awareness is how you are going to start being, this is how you're going to be able to change the pattern consciously. Once you are building awareness through being repetitively aware of how you're speaking, then we're going to move into forgiveness and grace. And this is the acceptance phase. This does not mean anything about me. Okay. What I don't want you to do is go from over explaining or deflecting compliments to being like, why am I like this? What the fuck is wrong with me? Where did this come from? Oh, it's because my dad said this when I was little. No necesito. Okay. You don't need to do all that. And I don't want you replacing one form of self deprecation, sovereignty, subversion with another form of self deprecation because oftentimes that's like attracts like. We just want to fill this toxic trait with this toxic trait. We don't want to do that, okay? So instead, you're just going to forgive yourself. Like, I heard myself say that. It doesn't mean anything about me. I'm still learning, and that's okay. And now, next time, I'll do differently. And if next time you fail, again, I heard myself say that. Next time, I'll do differently, right? It doesn't mean anything about me. And then the power pause. Practice silence as sovereignty as often as you possibly can. And I'm not saying shut up because, like, I love to talk. I attracted you. You're here to use the throat chakra, my love. But I am saying, is what you're saying purposeful, potent, precise, integritous? And if not, shut the fuck up. All right. So practice on sales calls, setting boundaries, requests, practice in your marketing, reread everything that you have, all the materials that you produce. And the results that you can expect as you reclaim this power is a new level of authenticity, which again is just living under one's own authority. So you will be less likely to seek validation from external sources. You're going to be doing a lot less people pleasing. You're going to be able to start to stand sovereign without the need for other people's opinions to match your own. And that's because we're putting you in your essence. The persona needs people to agree with it. And it's this tiny little fragile egoic thing. It reminds me of what's his name from Lord of the Rings, my precious, that little guy, right? That's like your persona, your essence. When you stand in your essence, other people can feel your power without you having to say a fucking word. And when you do open your mouth, those with eyes to see and ears to hear will know you, okay, by the sound of your voice. You'll have more capacity to ask for what you want powerfully and to uphold your boundaries when it's required. You'll be able to experience the joy of saying no and being the adult in the room. We live in a world full of people, most people, who never evolved past high school. And you get the immense pleasure of being the fucking adult in the room, of being the leader. It's so jammy. 10 out of 10 recommend. Leaders inspire people to become leaders. Leaders don't create followers. Leaders inspire other people to lead. Okay. And so when you are in your sovereignty, when you are in your power, you're going to be inspiring other people to do the same thing. And that's the power of being the adult in the room. We do the inner child work, we get the fuck in, we get the fuck out. Because children will just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And most of us are the inner child anyway. The whole purpose was so we could grow up and become the person that we needed in our lives today. All right. And listen, if you are interested in more of this, I will be dropping more of these into the Mysterium. And that's where all the like frameworks and lessons will, the lessons and the resources, the practices will live, is in the Mysterium. And in the Mysterium, you get access to all of my programs. It's included in the Mysterium. You also get 50% off of my one-to-one calls as the recording of this call is live. I'm not going to promise that forever and into the future, but you can always reach out to me, oracle@dawnellchristian.com, and ask. And if you're part of the Mysterium and it still says that you get 50% off those one-to-one calls, then baby, book it because they are so powerful. There's nothing like having a mirror to your soul be able to reflect back to you where you are playing small, where you are in resistance to something that's actually a teacher, that's something that your soul needs in order to evolve, so on and so forth. We won't go into all that. And listen, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much, wise women, for being with me today. I hope that this absolutely transforms the way that you communicate in life, business, sales, marketing, relationships, and everywhere else, and with yourself, between yourself and the divine. And I hope that you feel full of power and full of like ready to go and be your most sovereign self. That was my intention with this masterclass. And I'm so excited to see you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.